to start with, I just wanted to show you this figure of eight, because the world is full of figures of eight. Did you know that? But this is how your sales process should look like. So if you look at the, I don't know, how well you can see the actual headings in it, but the idea is that it's an ongoing process. So it starts with people buying and becoming a client, having an experience, becoming loyal, buying again, having an experience, becoming loyal. So it's not, the sales process is not that bit you do until someone becomes a client. It should encompass all of it. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. So lots of, if you go out and do what Aaron said and look on Google for to see what a sales process entails, etc., which I'm sure you have done before, you'll see loads and loads of different ones. There's 7, there's 5, there's 4, there's 10, there's 15 steps. So I think that the approach is normally similar, because obviously you would have, you sort of have to do it in a certain way. You have to approach people and then qualify them and then talk to them and then give them a proposal. So all of that is similar, but you must look at it in a way that fits for your business. So if your business is quite small and it's only you, then don't have 15 steps to your process. Keep it simple so you can do it. And the most important thing is to make sure that you can do it, because if not, it will become one of those things that sits and gather dust, and you'll never come again to a sales process webinar because you think it's all a waste of time. So, so just really important to try and make it fit with the quirkiness of your own company and your team, if you have a team, or not if you don't. So think about that. There's some typical gaps that I mentioned earlier that I come across. And what I'll do now is just go through those 5 gaps that I find and give you some things that you could consider, how, if you do indeed find a gap like that in your own sales process, on your own thinking, then perhaps it's something to consider. So essentially, the first gap that I find is how people deal with new inquiries. It's I've brought you for each step, I brought you a few quotes or just facts to sort of make you understand how important it is. So apparently 30 to 50% of sales go to the company that responds first. It probably varies between industries, but it is quite a big stat. So, how quickly do you respond, and do you have a way to clarify whether that's a good inquiry for you or not? I mean, the amount of people that haven't got a clue what they will actually go with and what they won't is staggering. And, they're not actually very sure, an inquiry comes in and it becomes a discussion, whereas you should be really clear on what it is that you do and what you would go with and what you won't, because depending on what you do, a lot of people will ask you for all sorts of things that will waste a lot of time and not make you any money or bring you any joy. So it's really important. So things to consider that you could do is an automated email response for any inquiry that comes in saying, hello, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch as soon as possible. That's if you can't or don't have anyone in your business that can react that day within 24 hours. You could give people an initial questionnaire to ask them, about their inquiry. So you've got a better tool to then decide whether you can help them or not. You can, things that help is understanding who your target market is and who it isn't, what products and services you offer and what you don't, and what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Those things, I mean, it sounds really obvious, but the amount of people I talk to that don't know that, and I think it really relates to things Aaron said earlier. I think these are really important things to sort of put in place to help with that initial stage. The next gap that I come across is lead qualification. So a lot of people either peak too soon. By that, I mean they offer the world without actually charging for it. And they think they've got a client without a contract or without agreeing with them, and that can often end up in a real disaster. You can end up spending a huge amount of time on offering people loads of things when, for A, you don't know what they actually want, and B, you should be paid for all this advice and stuff that you give people. People offer to do stuff for free, all sorts of things, just to get someone bedded in. And it's too early for that. You don't actually know, what they want, and whether it's right, and whether they're right for you and you're right for them. So, I think an initial questionnaire with a scoring matrix is really important, that you look at each question and go, yeah, that scores this or whatever, and to allow you to build a picture in your mind. Have some key questions you always ask. I know that when I speak to new prospects that come in, I really try to understand what is the real reason why they want my services. Is it a nice to have, or is it a real pain? I really need it. And that's, to me, is something that really form my questions that I ask. Have a general fee proposal that you can just send out. So you have that initial conversation, talk to people, get a bit of an idea, say, look, I'm going to send you, this is how we work. We do this first and this second and this third. I'm going to just send you a general fee proposal, so you understand what our fees are and how we work. And then we can talk again if it's relevant, and we can move things on. So if you do that, you actually find that some people might look at it and go, well, that's really expensive. And you could have done loads of work for them only to find that at a later stage. So I think it's quite important not to be scared, to have a general proposal that explains how you work and how much you cost. And also, I think it's really important to understand the timelines and stages. So, if you're somebody that works in construction and you help people with projects, you need to understand whether they actually own the land, when are they starting, who else is involved. All of these things are just really, really key. And I know that we have a variety of businesses here today, and that, if you might be listening to this and going, oh, that doesn't sound like the people that talk to me, but break it down to the people who talk to you. We all need to know a little bit more, because knowledge is power. So it's very important to not jump too soon. Third gap is about asking questions, and it's all related, because I love this quote by Bruce Lee. Adam, you could take these for BNI if you want. So, I do think that a lot of us are afraid of asking questions for two reasons. One, we don't like to talk about pain because it's uncomfortable. And I always talk about that. And I always say, look, it's really, really important to uncover why people are doing things, because if you don't know, then you can always end up being the nice to have, which they won't buy because you're too expensive. So it's really important to uncover and press on that pain, so they know they must use you. And I think people also don't like to ask questions because they think it's because they get very excited. There's a new it's a new project, it sounds fantastic, we just want to sell, we want to give a solution, we want to help, which is all great. But I think we do need to hold ourselves back a little bit and make sure that we have an evaluation phase, and that we ask those hard questions. I mean, with an evaluation phase, that's something that I recommend everybody has that in their sales process. You had a lead come in, you've qualified it, you've spoken to them, you told them how much it would cost, it is working and it is the right project and you want to go ahead. I think you need to then have a sit down with that client, either, do it as a workshop, a planning workshop, or if it's not that kind of a business, you just sit down with them to really get under the skin of the project and understand what they want, and ask loads of questions. Because firstly, it will help you to give them a much more tailored cost then, because you will know how much, and you'll also know, if you use Aaron's thinking about what motivates people, it would really help you to sort of get under their skin a little bit and be able to give them the perfect proposal that they won't be able to say no to. But if they then disappear off the planet and don't come back to you and you need to follow up, well, you know so much about them and about the process now that you've got a lot more of an ability. You can email them and say, look, you said your webinar is happening next week, and we haven't even started to look at this and that. If you don't know any of these things, you just end up with a pipeline full of opportunities you thought were amazing that don't go anywhere because you haven't got the knowledge about them. So that's why I think this is a really important part of the sales process. Follow-up, I can't talk about sales process without talking about follow-up. And Wanda Allen, this is my favorite quote ever for follow-up. It is all over my website. I think it's really important. Seriously, how many times do you follow up before you give up? There are people who don't follow up at all, do you know? I think that I'm appalled by that. I think that's terrible. People actually like it when you follow up because they feel wanted and needed. We all want to be loved. So, follow up's a form of love. I do think that what helps if you're unsure about how to do this correctly, there's two things to look at. Flip it on its head by calling it building a relationship rather than following up. Then you won't feel like you're being a pester. And then the second thing to do is to stage it. So what do you want to do, in stage one? What do you need to find out in the first follow-up? What do you need to find out in the second? And always agree with the client. Is it okay if I call in a couple of weeks? When would be good? Put time in the diary to do that, so you don't feel like you're doing something like you're annoying them in any way. And if you really want to know more about that, we've done a whole webinar about follow-ups, and there's a link on our website to watch the presentation. So just go to our website and find out more if this interests you. But it is a massive part of the sales process and must be included. Don't skip it. And then the last one for me is customer experience. So I touched on that in my figure of 8 process. And I do think that I really like this quote by Gandhi. And I think it is a big part of selling, because to make your company stand out, you want people to talk about you. Differentiation in the marketplace can be really hard. You want customers to be so amazed by what you do that they talk to others, and you get people come to you through referrals, because that is the best form of selling. And to be able to create that, there's a great book about referral marketing, the referral engine, that I recommend everybody should have a look at. But I think that to create referral marketing, you really need good customer service. You need to be different. You need to be for people to really feel that what you do is different. And to do that, one of the key things to do is to get feedback and learn. So as part of your sales process, once you've delivered a project, I'm amazed by how many people don't then survey and ask the clients what they feel. If you work with clients ongoing, do you talk to them every month about their feedback? Do you do an annual survey to all your clients to see where you stand? There are bodies out there that would help you. They would do it and actually stand you against a scale and tell you how good you are. Then you could then boast and say, well, we're this and no one else does it. And all of these things matter, and they are a part of the sales process. Good service does make you stand out. So I think that's something that people don't generally think about when they think about a sales process. So that, I think those are the 5 steps that I wanted to go through, and the 5 gaps that I've identified are really typical and thought might help you to think about. And very happy to speak further if you want to.